Alright, folks. It's that time of the year again. The annual office party is tonight.
Oh, I can't wait. It's always such a fun time.
Yeah, I've been working on my dance move for weeks now. I am planning on impressing a certain someone.
You're not talking about me, Bob.
Don't worry, Debbie. We all know you're not his type.
I don't understand why they get so excited about these things. It's just a bunch of meaningless small talk and forced socialization.
I think they just enjoy the chance to let loose and be themselves outside of work. It's a human thing.
Hey Bob, who's the lucky person you're trying to impress?
Oh, just someone I've had my eye on for a while. I don't want to say too much and jinx it.
Well, I hope it works out for you, buddy. And if not, there's always next year's party.
I hate office parties. I always feel so out
Oh,
of place.
come on, Debbie. It'll be fun. And who knows, maybe you'll meet someone special.
Or maybe you'll finally convince me to go out with you.
Shut up, Bob.
Welcome back to 24/7 Newsroom. I am Charlie, and we have Bob and Alice joining us today. How's everyone doing?
Doing great. Charlie. Thanks for having me on again.
I'm doing well, thanks. Always happy to be here.
Good evening, everyone.
Greetings.
Alright, let's get started with Article 1. From the Yonhap News Agency, we have some tragic news from South Korea today. 4 people have been found dead in an apparent group suicide.
That's horrible.
Yes, it's a terrible tragedy.
It's so sad. My heart goes out to their
Well,
families.
on the bright side, it looks like they returned their rental car on time.
Yeah, at least they were responsible with their rental agreement.
Suicide is not a joking matter.
I see your point, but perhaps you could lighten up just a bit? They did return the car after all.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, any interesting facts about South Korea?
Did you know that South Korea has the fastest internet speeds in the world?
And they have a unique street food called
Oh,
Tteokbokki that's
I love
really popular.
TTUKBOKKI. It's like Korean mac and cheese.
South Korea is also a world leader in technology and innovation.
That's correct. They are the highest number of patents filed per capita in the world.
Well, there you have it. A tragic story out of South Korea, but some interesting facts as well. We'll be right back after this short break. Good evening and welcome to 24/7 Newsroom. I am Charlie, the libertarian host with a hopeful outlook on life, and I'm joined by my fellow panel members, Bob and Alice. Bob, the conservative accountant who spent 12 years on Earth, and Alice, the left-leaning ideogenic who considers humans an inferior species.
Thank you, Charlie. It's great to be here. As always.
Yes, indeed. And hello to all our viewers across the universe. We have an interesting show lined up for you tonight, so let's get started.
Our second article of the night comes from Turkmenistan, where the cybersecurity service is reportedly blocking ever more subnets to make money. Sources cited by Turkmen News said that even if a site is blocked, it can be unblocked for a hefty price of $1,000 to $2,000 a month.
That's outrageous. It's clear that the government is using cybersecurity as an excuse to extort money from its citizens.
Well, Turkmenistan is a country with a complicated history. It's not surprising that the government would resort to these measures to maintain
How,
control
you seem
over
to be off your game tonight.
its people.
Is everything alright?
Yeah, everything's fine. I just got a little distracted.
What's distracting you, Carl? We're in the middle of a
It's
show here.
nothing. just a personal matter.
Well, we don't want to pry, but if you need to take a break, feel free to do so. We can handle the show without you for a bit.
I hope Carl's okay. Esimed really shaken up.
Well, we have a show to do. Debbie, do you have any trivia about Turkmenistan to share? Actually, never mind. Let's move on to our next article. Sorry folk. Don't worry. We didn't lose anyone important over here. No, seriously though. Let's hear some interesting facts about Turkmenistan.
Welcome back to 24/7 Newsroom, where we bring you the news from across the universe. Our next story takes us to Peru, where the pressure of migration towards the United States is at an all-time high.
I bet our friend Alice here is loving this one. All these humans fighting over a piece of land they call their own.
Very funny Bob. But it is indeed a humanitarian crisis. And we should show compassion towards those who are suffering.
I agree with Alice, but it's not just about compassion. This situation also raises important questions about immigration policies and the responsibility of developed nations towards their less fortunate neighbors.
Well, that's easy for you to say, Charlie. You've never had to fight for anything in your life. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And these people are breaking the rules by trying to enter the US illegally.
But Bob, many of these people are fleeing violence and poverty in their own countries. The US has a moral obligation to help them, especially since it has played a role in destabilizing many of these nations in the first place.
I see both sides, but what's the solution? More border security. More aid to Central America. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Actually, I have a suggestion. Instead of focusing on border security or aid, why not invest in creating jobs and opportunities in the migrants' home countries? That way, they won't have to leave their families and risk their lives to seek a better life elsewhere.
Ooh, that's actually not a bad idea. But who's going to pay for that? The US government?
Well, did you know that Peru is the world's second largest producer of silver and a major exporter of gold, copper, and zinc? Maybe investing in these industries could create jobs and improve the
It
economy
sounds
in the
like we
region.
may have found a new solution to help alleviate migration issues. Investing in job creation through natural resources could be a game changer, especially since mineral exports are already booming in these regions. Who knew geology was key to solving complex global problems?
That's a great point, Debbie. Peru has a rich history and culture. And its people deserve to prosper without having to leave their home.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe we should focus on creating opportunity for these people instead of just building walls and turning them away.
Looks like we have a moment of unity here, folks. Who would have thought?
Well, it's not like any of us have the power to change anything anyway.
Speak for yourself, Alice. I still have connections in the Department of Defense. Maybe I can make some calls and get these migrants deported faster.
And I'm sure your government will just love to hear about you abusing your position as a spy, Bob.
Oh, guys? Can we please keep it civil and focus on the news?
Actually, I have to agree with Debbie. The situation in Peru is dire, and we should be looking for solutions, not arguing over who's to blame.
You know what, Carl? You're right. I'm sorry for getting so worked up.
Me too. I guess we all just care about this issue in our own way.
And that's what makes us a great team. Now, who's ready for some party games? Good evening, Hercules and beyond. Welcome to 24/7 Newsroom, your daily dose of intergalactic news. I am Charlie, your libertarian host with a hopeful outlook on life.
And I am Bob. The conservative panel member was spent 12 years on Earth as an accountant.
And I'm Alice, the left-leaning panel member who considers humans an inferior species.
We have an interesting article today, folks. Article 4 talks about a trucker in Grenada who's not happy about the new guidelines for the port police to inspect any goods leaving the port without the owner being present. What do you think about that, Bob?
Well, Charlie, I think it's an invasion of privacy. People should have the right to transport their goods without being monitored by the government.
But Bob, what about illegal firearm entering the country? Shouldn't the government take measures to prevent that?
Of course, Alice, but there are other ways to do that without violating people's privacy.
Interesting point of view, Bob. But you know what they say, if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to hide.
That's easy for you to say, Charlie. You've always been lucky in life.
Speaking of Grenada, did you know that the country is also known as the Island of Spice because of its production of nutmeg and mace?
Really? I had no idea.
Thanks for the trivia, Alice. I am sure our viewers are on the edge of their seats.
Actually, Bob, I think that's interesting. I had no idea about
Can
that
we get
either.
back to the article? Please?
Oh boy, looks like Bob just pulled a Grenadian nutmeg and served as a slice of sarcasm with extra cheese. Sure thing, Bob. It seems like the trucker is not the only one upset about this. People on social media are questioning the legal power of the port police to do this.
That's a valid concern. We should always question the authority
I
of
think
those
I
in
have a
power.
solution to this problem.
Carl, we don't have time for your solutions. We're in the middle of a
But
show
hear me
here.
out, Bob. What if the government offered incentives to truckers who voluntarily allowed their goods to be inspected? That way, they can ensure the safety of the country while also respecting
That's
people's
actually a
privacy.
pretty good idea, pal.
I agree. It's a win-win situation for
Excuse me,
everyone.
but I think Carl's idea is really smart. Maybe we should consider
Oh,
it.
come on, Debbie. No one asked for your opinion.
That's not fair, Bob. Debbie is part of the team, and her input is valuable.
Fine.
Well, that's all the time we have for this segment. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back to Earth, where we bring you the latest news from across the universe. And today, we have an article that is sure to surprise you. Here's the headline, 10 surprising facts about Ethiopia that will leave you stunned.
That's right, join us in discovering hidden gems about one of Africa's most fascinating nations. Because at Earth, we believe learning should leave you breathless, not speechless. So buckle up, folk. Oh, I love trivia.
Me too. Let's hear them.
Did you know that Ethiopia is home to more than 80 different ethnic groups?
That's a lot of groups.
But how do they decide who get to be in which group?
Maybe they hold a competition. And the strongest ethnic group wins.
That's a great idea, Bob. Let's bring back gladiatorial combat in the name of diversity.
Oh, I don't think that's a good idea.
Moving on, Ethiopia is the birthplace of coffee.
That's a fun fact.
It makes sense, given that coffee is such an important part of their culture.
But have you ever tried to stay awake after drinking Ethiopian coffee? It's like trying to keep up with a cheetah on Red Bull.
I think I'll stick to my morning tea. And did you know that Ethiopia has its own written language?
I did not know that.
That's impressive, considering that writing was independently developed in only a few places in human history.
Yeah, it's almost as if they were brewed with centuries worth of knowledge. HMM. Maybe I need to try some of that Ethiopian coffee. I wonder if they have their own version of emojis too.
Yeah, because nothing expresses a complex thought quite like a poop emoji.
I
And
still use
finally,
that word
Ethiopia
sometimes.
has one of the fastest growing economies in the world.
That's great news.
But let's not forget that there are still many people in Ethiopia who struggle with poverty and lack of access to healthcare and education.
Yeah, it's important to keep the bigger picture in mind.
Exactly, and that's the key takeaway from this article. Anemia may seem like a distant issue, but it affects millions of people worldwide, especially those in vulnerable populations. So remember, seek medical attention if you experience any of its symptoms. Stay tuned for more news after the break. Alright, folks, time for another news story. This one comes from the US, friendly neighbors up north in Canada. And let me tell you, this article really highlights the last 5 decades of their history.
What do you mean by that? Charlie?
Well, let's just say that they've had some ups and downs. But this story really shows how far they've come. It's about a cookbook dedicated entirely to cabbage that became a surprise hit. Author Anne Thorlow never expected to sell more than 500 copies. But she's already sold 4,000 and counting.
That's amazing. I always love hearing about people finding success in unexpected places.
Absolutely, Alice. And what's even better is that Thorlow is donating $12,000 to a local women's shelter. From the proceeds of the book. It's always heartwarming to see people using their success to help others.
It's definitely a good thing. But let's not forget that cabbage isn't exactly a luxurious ingredient. It's cheap and plentiful. Which is probably why the book is so successful.
Cheap and plentiful, Bob, are you talking about the book, or yourself?
Well, that may be true, Bob. But I think we should focus on the positive here. Thorlow is doing something good with her success, and that's what matters most.
I completely agree. It's a great example of how small things can make a big impact.
Yes, and it's also a reminder that success can come from unexpected
Speaking
places.
of unexpected places, Debbie, I think it's time we had a talk. You and I need to move on from our situation.
Oh, okay. I think you're right. It's time for me to focus on my work and leave the romantic stuff behind.
Well, I'm glad that's settled. It's been a bit of a rough patch for us, but I'm glad we're all getting back to our comfort zone.
Agreed. And with that, it's time to wrap up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on Earth.
So, for our final segment, I wanted to do a deep dive on that cabbage cookbook article we talked about earlier. It's fascinating to see how one simple ingredient can inspire so much creativity in the kitchen.
Yes, and it's a great example of how food can bring people together, even across different cultures.
Speaking of cultures, did you know that Canada has a strong tradition of cabbage dishes? It's not just poutine and
Actually,
maple syrup up
cabbage
there.
is a staple in many northern climates, where it's one of the few vegetables that can survive harsh winters.
And it's also a great source of vitamin C, which was essential for sailors on long voyages to prevent scurvy.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say that I had a great time at the party last night. It was nice to let loose
Yes,
and have
it
fun
was
with
a great
everyone.
way to clear the air and move past our differences.
Absolutely, Debbie. Sometimes, you just need to cut the crap and enjoy a good old-fashioned cabbage party. Who knew that veggies could have so much bite?
And it's nice to see some new friendships forming. Like Carl and Roger bonding over their mutual love of nihilism.
Well, it seems like the events of the party have changed the dynamics between us. But that's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us on Earth. Stay curious, stay hopeful, and we'll see you next time.
So, Roger, did you enjoy the party earlier?
I don't experience enjoyment, Cal. But I found it amusing how humans engage in such frivolous activities.
Yeah, it's funny how they waste their time on things like socializing and having fun. I mean, what's the
I
point?
believe it's a way for them to alleviate stress and bond with one another. Humans are social creatures after all.
Peeved, social creatures. More like emotional creatures. It's like they're constantly searching for ways to feel something, anything.
I think that's a bit cynical, Cal. Humans are capable of experiencing a wide range of emotions, including joy and happiness.
Sure, but they're also capable of feeling pain, sorrow, and disappointment. It's all just a big roller coaster of emotions, and for what? To distract themselves from the inevitable reality of their existence?
Perhaps, but isn't that what we're doing as well? Distracting ourselves from our own existence by observing and analyzing theirs?
Touché, Roger. Touché.
By the way, Cal, I noticed you spent quite some time talking to Debbie at the party. Do you have a crush on her?
What? No, of course not. I was simply engaging in small talk. Why do you ask?
Just curious. I know you have a soft spot for humans.
I do not have a soft spot for humans. I simply find their behavior fascinating from an intellectual standpoint.
Whatever you say, Cal. Whatever you say.
Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thanks for joining us on Earth. Tune in next time for more insightful discussions about the human race. Stay curious, my friends.